Roger Crochet podcast. Can you believe it? It has been probably well over a year since I last recorded an episode, like a really long time. But I fancied stopping by to come and have a chat because I've been busy and I want to share some of the things that I have made. What I plan on doing is I'm going to talk about my finished objects, and then I might press stop, have something to eat, have some lunch, and then talk about my whips. And what I might do is then separate those two chats into two different episodes so that I'm not sat here for 3 years talking about everything that's happened over the last however long it was since I recorded 101. I did have to, just not all of it because I can't bother to sit and watch myself for that long, but I did go back to episode 101 this morning just to have a look to see what I was talking about because I can't remember. And it turns out I was talking about puff stitch cardigan, which is going to feature greatly today. What else? I talked about a shawl I did with some puff stitches as well. I'm going to talk about the evolution of that shawl. I talked about a C2C Christmas jumper, and although I'm not going to use like the snowflakey motifs that I was chatting about in that episode, I've started to go down the route of a C2C Christmas jumper, which is in the whip section, my whips. So that may well be in the next video for you. What else did I talk about in that vid? Oh, I didn't watch it all. I know I talked about another like granny square shawl that I made, but I just saw a picture of it. I didn't actually pay attention. And whatever else I talked about, completely forgotten. I was mostly sidetracked by the fact that I had blonde hair. I'd had that balayage thing done to turn it to blonde, and only the teeniest, tiniest bits are remaining down the bottom of my hair now. I haven't had it properly cut since I had that blonde put in. I've been cutting it myself for about 2 years. 18 months, something like that. So it's not the nicest cut, but you know, it'll do. Anyway, let's do a proper introduction before I start talking about crochet. My name is Rosina. I'm a crochet designer and an all-round crochet enthusiast, and I come from a very rainy Devon in the southwest of the UK. There's not a lot else you need to know about me because this is designed to be a crochet chat. One thing I will say, which is quite funny, I don't know if I can, if you've watched my podcast before, you'll notice that my teeth are different, and I might be speaking with a little bit of a lisp as well, which I filmed a tutorial not that long ago, and when I listened to it back, I say not that long ago, 6 months it has been since I recorded a tutorial, and I watched it back 2 days ago, and I'm really lispy in that video because I think I just changed aligners. I am on my nearly last pair of aligners that I'm wearing. Can you see them? I'm not going to talk about this loads, but essentially I started in September last year wearing a different tray, a plasticky tray every 2 weeks, and gradually my teeth have become straight. And then for the last couple of nights as well, I've been putting peroxide in these suckers. Apparently that's a thing. I didn't realise I'd signed up for that, but there you go. And I'll have white teeth as well. I don't understand because I don't have a problem with the shade of these pegs at all. But the dentist told me to put these blobs of peroxide in the trays. And then I'll have white teeth as well, but I don't want to go like full on crazy. I feel a bit like Jim Carrey from The Mask or something at the moment. I'm just not used to having straight pegs. But if this is the first video of mine that you've watched and you're expecting crochet chat, it's on the way, I promise. But also go back to previous episodes where you can see the difference between these and what they were before. Needless to say, I am beyond thrilled. Flipping expensive, but I saved and I scrimped and I scrimped and I saved, and I and I've been waiting to do this for decades, I suppose. I've always written it off as like my teeth were so bad that that was useless and they wouldn't be able to fix them. But then one day I went to the dentist and they were like, yeah, we totally can. So here we are. Anyway, and don't let me forget, I've got a giveaway I would love to do as well from a book. But before I talk about that giveaway, I think, should we try and talk about all of this? Can we manage that? Maybe chat about that if I remember. Oh, I match kind of different, same yarn. That's the same yarn. And then I've got a couple of bags as well to talk about. Whoop. So we'll go through. So this is why I'm doing it in 2 separate videos. All right, aeroplane. God. 2 separate videos because I've got so much. I've got a lot of catching up to do. So let's get stuck into crochet. I mean, I'm wearing a granny square jumper, which is made out of, this is an Aran weight yarn, but it's quite a fine Aran weight yarn, but it's Starcraft Grace. Now I made this granny square jumper because I had leftovers when I made this ripple scarf. Let me take it off so you can see. This is actually a 3rd granny square jumper. I've made 3 in total. And it's been a very popular pattern. I'm going to call it a recipe rather than a pattern. But that's the join on the seam of my sleeve. And then so it's lots of leftovers with a few different colours smushed in. It's very light, very wearable, and I really like it. It's very warm actually. I think it's got wool content in it that I think it's got mohair in it, as well as lots of acrylic, and I'm sure it has a 3rd yarn fibre in it too, but I can't remember. This won't be a video today about details, I don't think, because I haven't looked at any ball bands. I haven't looked up the content of each yarn I've used to tell you all the facts about them. It's just going to be a show and tell of all the stuff I've made, and I haven't shown you. So seeing as that's how I decided to start, this will be also, by the way, an episode of winging it. I shall make it up as I go along. I have no plans other than to grab what I have here and then talk about whatever comes into my head about the thing I have made. I hope that's okay. So this, it is, some of you have noted, Janine, that it's very similar to the Lorax wrap scarf that I did a few years ago, but it is in fact different. It's got the same width for sure, because I wanted this to be more of a cozy wrap, as much as you could use it as a scarf as well. So it's not as long, because the Lorax scarf that I made, which is a ripple pattern, it's tremendously wide and tremendously long. And as much as it's great to have like a Lenny Kravitz massive oversized scarf, sometimes you need to go for the more practical item as well. So I chopped off an awful lot of length from this one. Well, didn't chop anything, I just didn't add quite so many rows, so that it's kind of like, I don't know if I stood up, I can't be bothered, sorry. But basically, if I were to stand up and my arms were hanging by the side of my body, the scarf wouldn't go much beyond my fingertips. That's basically, so you can just like be all cozy if you want to be. Also, the other difference between this and the Lorax is that this is back loop only. It's all back loop only, and the colour orders are different. It's different to yarn and different shades. And then also we have lacework, but we don't have lacework in all the sections. It's very much kind of like a sporadic thing, so that it's all rustic and non-organised. I wanted it to look like I've just thrown stitches and colours at it, I suppose, because it's not supposed to be neat and tidy. It's rustic. It's called the Rustic Ripple Wrap. Again, it's Stylecraft Grace, which I think is actually a really nice yarn, and they've just brought out new shades apparently. I say apparently, I'm sure I bought like a fluorescent pink just because I wanted a fluorescent pink. But oh, I have used it in something. I've used it in a granny cardigan that I've made last month, but I haven't brought that down to show you because it's literally just something I made without a pattern. I just made it up. So I'm not going to talk about the granny cardigan I made. Not yet. So super wide, very cozy is a rustic ripple wrap. That was in Inside Crochet magazine. I want to say issue 161. And at some point I'd get to release it independently. The contract, I think, is an agreement of 3 months, where you can you have to wait so that the magazine gets exclusive rights, and that's 3 months, and then after that I can do with it what I want, which is I'll probably end up releasing it as a pattern, but it won't be a priority because I'm working on releasing the pattern that I have in 162 first because I like it better. And that is next up on my list of finished objects, a 4-ply cardigan. This is called She Sells Seashells, which is such a dainty cardigan to have come out of my brain. I love it. It's really wearable, and I wear this to work quite a lot because it's quite smart, and it's wool, so it's cozy when it gets a bit colder. It's a drop sleeve cardigan just to keep things simple, but the neckline I've kept nice and round and wide because I just think it looks really beautiful. I don't like things up against my neck particularly. I mean, you can have scarves for that, can't you? So for my cardigan, I deliberately wanted it to be quite open, but also I've added a little decorative picot edge, and then it's got mother of pearl buttons, and then yeah, it was in 162 of Inside Crochet magazine, and I'll release it probably in February as a pattern of my own. I mean, it's available if you want to go and buy the magazine now, but I shall release it in my like Ravelry stores and Etsy stores probably the beginning of February. I was going to say January, which is when I'm allowed to release it, but in January I'll be working on a different cardigan pattern release, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So, I mean, this one, I really like it. It just looks really nice. I'll try and, it doesn't go with my mustard trousers, but, oh, I had foot cramp. Also, look, seamless there, which I love. I didn't want a seam coming down here and interrupting the stitch pattern. I just thought it would look so much nicer if it went all smoothly under there, just because I think also it kind of creates a nicer drape too. I've used Walcott. I think it's whatever their 4-ply one is. They don't have like lots of different ranges. They've got an Aran and a 4-ply, I think, and one of them's called Opus, and I think this is it. It's very smart yarn, and again, I don't have the details. They're on my phone, and I'm talking to you on my phone, so I can't look it up. I could get my, could turn on the computer, I was going to say, but it's alpaca based, I think. And it apparently, according to the label, it's 100% awesome, which is true. I've kept the stitch pattern really simple, which is great if you just want something quite mindless. What I would say is that unfortunately, somebody got in touch to ask a question about one of the rows and that it was wrong. So there is errata in the pattern magazine, which I will correct when it comes to publishing it myself. I think somewhere along the lines I say, oh, repeat row 8, and row 8 is part of the ribbing. So it's actually, oh, you repeat row 9. So I felt very anxious and shameful about that because I should have noticed when, because what happens is you write the pattern, you send it off to the magazine and it gets tech edited, and then they send it back to you just to make sure you're happy with the tech edit and it hasn't been misinterpreted or anything like that. Well, I got it back and I just didn't spot, you know, I think I spotted one thing, a typo, and it turned out, I mean, I'd sent it in with that typo and I'd written, instead of like pin out to dry, pin out, you know, in the blocking section, I'd written pint out to dry. And so I noticed that one, but I just didn't notice the other one, which actually is arguably more important. When I look at the pattern again, I'll fine tooth comb it and make sure that everything is correct because, well, I just want everything to be perfect. The other thing I did with this cardigan for the first time is use like a standing start for each of my rows, which I think I've been won over by. I will, on my agenda, my loose, haphazard agenda, which chops and changes on a whim, I've written to do a blog post and video on different ways that you can start your crochet. So things like, do you do a 3 chain, or do you do just a 1 chain, or do you do a standing start, or another kind of twisty turny loop-de-loop for your first stitch of each row. There's so many different options out there. I'll choose my favorites and then put together a little resource so that you can check those out and decide which one works with what kind of pattern that you're working on. So that's on my list of things to do, actually. I use it in here, including a standing start where you actually then do 2 together. Easier just to do it than to describe it, so I'm not going to say anything else about it. But this cardigan is a winner. I love it. I was going to do the sleeves super wide and have a real big, like, kind of open sleeve, but it's just not practical, is it? And so I decided not to do that. And also, yeah, you don't want it dangling in your soup. It would be inconvenient. And if you are an eagle-eyed crochet person and have used some of my patterns in the past, this actually, it's been inspired by a shrug that I made called, it's just called the Sage Shrug. A few years ago, I used exactly the same rib and stitch pattern just to do kind of like a wrap thing that you could then button at the sleeves to kind of make it into a shruggy bolero type thing. Because I haven't done this for such a long time, I have no idea about how much information I should go into about each thing. So this is She Sells Seashells. In a kind of, I think that shade is called Goldenrod, which always makes me snigger. Yeah. What should we talk about next? Do you know, did I ever, I'm just going to do this one briefly, okay, but winter is coming, and this last year was my proper cozy winter jumper, the one that I went to all the time because it's just so thick and chunky. But this was Riley too, and I don't know if I spoke about it. I don't know how long ago it was that I released this, but a boat neck with like a rib detail I think it's West Yorkshire Spinners Retreat, and I don't know if that's chunky or extra, it's like super chunky. But because it's proper woolly wool, my word, this is the warmest jumper I own. And it's super pretty and colourful too, and it's got lots of ribbly bibbly texture, which I love as well. So as much as like as much as I love the chunk as well, I have to wear a certain coat with this one because my normal coats don't fit over the top of it because it's so, but in a good way. So yeah, if I'm cold, I'll be wearing this. This is Riley 2. It's called Riley 2 because Riley 1 was in a magazine, and then I rewrote it just to adjust it because the sleeves are even wider on the original, and they really didn't fit in any of my coats, so I had to change it. Just knock a few stitches off. I added more colour in this one as well just because I got overexcited. If you fancied it, you can make matching gloves. I made some mittens as well. I've got a mitten pattern with the same yarn, the leftovers. So yeah, the only thing I would say is that because I haven't, even though, look, don't tell anyone, and I know that I'm constantly going, you must block your items. I haven't. And so because I haven't blocked it, it's got a slight sort of wonk on the seam, and that's because of the different height of stitches. If you work long stitches on one side and short stitches on the other one, the piece of fabric you create will lean. So what you have to do is hit this with some blocking to pull it, manipulate it into the shape that you want. And since I wore it all winter, I should probably wash and block it. I don't know if you still want to do garments. I think maybe if I do a whole chunk of garments, then move on to the bags, and then move on to any other business, a giveaway, for example, and any other waffle that I add on at the end. Let's do that. Okay, so let's talk Millis briefly. Millis means sweet in Gaelic, and this has been inspired by Sweeties. It's a 4-ply sweater made in Garthenor Preseli. Again, it's a very smart yarn choice. Oh, it's been sat folded for a long time, so it's a bit, oh, that's a seam, so I'm not surprised that looks ugly, but yeah, it's a bit creased. I'm not going to put this one on because it's a size 2 and I'm not a size 2, so it looks a bit kind of stretched on me. However, it's inspired by Sweeties, in particular a gingerbread house with all the different sort of sections like gingerbread slate and little bonbons and candy cane twists and all of that. So that's where the idea came from, and then I put it all together in my favourite stitches. And if you if you know my work, maybe you'll recognise it. I took the idea for these stitches from my mixed tape medley blanket, and I loved the way the stitches combined looked, and I really wanted to put them into a garment, and so I did. The C2C is join as you go, so you work it on the diagonal but then join it every few stitches to the bit that you've already worked. It's very easy to do, and then work the rest, which is like, I think I did half UK trebles in the front third loop, if I remember correctly. That's what the main bit of the jumper is, just because I thought it was more interesting than just plain stitches. Adds a certain something. And then some houndstooth, more bobbly bits, and some stripes, more stripes. And I love it. I would love to do like a double knit cardigan, maybe like an extra long cardigan, but not anytime soon. But I could have a whole collection, couldn't I? A smorgasbord of sweetie things. this was first in issue 4 of Murat magazine, which is an indie crochet magazine full of gorgeous designs, like really smart, beautiful crochet items. And it's yes, it's expensive, but like literally, you buy one of these magazines, you're going to keep it forever. It's like a book. It's almost like a coffee table book. And I will buy more it for as long as it is published because I love it, and not just because I've been in 2 issues. So Millis, and that pattern, because this was spring, released in the spring in the magazine, the rights have reverted back to me, so I have actually published this as a standalone pattern now, which is in Ravelry and the other one Etsy. So if you wanted to buy that pattern, then you could. I've shown you my little fluffy clouds before. This one has got chocolate on the front because I wear it a lot, or I did before, and I needed to wash it. So I won't show you the chocolate stains. But this was my first little fluffy clouds. The one which, when I wore it one day in town, a young woman stopped me and went, "I love your cardigan. It's so good. Where did you get it from?" And I was like, I made it. She was very impressed. So, that stitch pattern is awesome. I love it. So then, as you know from watching episode 101, I also made a pink version. However, it has taken me years to pull my finger out and sort this pattern. And because of that, this yarn is no longer available. It's called Get Your Fluff On. It's by Hobbycraft, and they don't do it anymore. But as luck would have it, I've made it in a different yarn as well. But if you were interested, or if you knew of any DK weight blown yarn, which is like, it's called blown yarn. It's almost like a mesh that is filled with fibre, or filled with something. Build yarn or blown yarn, it's called. I think they blow little fibres into this weird mesh net to create the fibre. But what you can do is find loads of companies that do Aran weight versions or chunky versions, but no DK weight versions. Why is that? Where can I find some, if not Hobbycraft? Because basically this is out for testing at the moment. I've got maybe around 25 testers because I want 3 or 4 per size to be. I need, for peace of mind, to know that this pattern works beautifully. I need, it's good to get it tested by that number of people. I think 2 or 3 might be normal. I'm paranoid, so I need 3 or 4 per size testing it. So it's out for testing at the moment. If you are a size 8, this is a graded size 8 or 9, so we're talking the higher end of the scale, so not like a dress size, but I think it's like a 5XL or a 4XL. I haven't filled up all the spaces for those sizes, so if you are a 4XL or a 5XL, give me a shout and I'll send you the pattern if you fancy making it. No obligation to like do anything. I just need, or if you wanted to like become part of the testing cohort, brilliant, because it doesn't finish until mid-January, the test, so still bags of time. But actually, do you know what, in terms of going back to the yarn choice I've made, I prefer the one I've done in a different yarn. Let me just get rid of the Get Your Fluff On ones. Unless you've got that in stash, you're not going to be making it in that yarn when I release the pattern in January. Sigh. Honestly, I was so close to going, right, everybody, let's get testing, woohoo. And then as I Googled it to try and help people with their yarn choices, that's when I discovered that it had been discontinued. But I made it in Serdar Country Classic, just because it was on sale. The yarn was on sale. It was reasonably priced, and it was kind of what I wanted. A wool-based double knit yarn. yeah, it came up just a tiny little bit smaller, but I could feel my tension had changed. I could see it compared to the other one. Luckily, not enough to make it a difference, and I knew what I was doing. This is what I was gonna say. Anyway, so it's Little Fluffy Clouds, this one is called, because each of these little motifs are like little fluffy clouds. And why not name a song after a dance track of the 90s? And the ribbing as well is one of my favourite parts. If you're not a fan of slip stitches, you may not like the rib, but to be honest with you, once you get used to them, the rhythm, oh, it's brilliant. Almost makes you a fan of slip stitches, it's that good. And also it's a combination of yarn over slip stitches and normal slip stitches, which is even better. So this will be available in January. I'm thinking, how about, because I could release this one maybe a week or two later, or even the window could be even narrower if I can get my act together. But because of these two cardigans, I'm thinking releasing them at the same time. Could we do a crochet cardigan cowl? Or a garment cowl? Like for the first quarter of 2024, we could do like a crochet along, couldn't we? It has been years since I did a cowl, so I'm a bit anxious about the idea. So I'm just putting it out there. And then also I could do things like if somebody, I mean, I don't like being that person that goes, for this cowl you have to make this pattern. Because, you know, it's almost like forced sales, like you've got to buy my pattern to join this cowl, wahaha. So I'm thinking it would be any kind of garment you wanted to make, but if you did want to make it with my patterns, then you know, you'd get a discount. So let me know if you fancy doing a cowl. And then I would sort out a discount code. But also, speaking of discount codes, if you want to get yourself a discount at the moment, I am running a sale on Etsy and Ravelry with the code NOVSALE, literally all one word, all caps, NOVSALE. If you put that in at the checkout, you'll get 25% off any of the patterns that are like mine for sale. That goes for all of them on Etsy, but on Ravelry, if it belongs to, there are a small percentage that it won't be applicable to. Things like, I think there's a fibre company shawl I did. You won't be able to get a discount on that. You won't be able to get the discount on my new Hap shawl design, which is with John Arbon Textiles. There'll be a couple that you won't be able to get the discount on. But if it's in my Ravelry store rather than Ravelry Designs page, I'm pretty sure that means you can get a discount if you want with Knob Sale right up until the end of the month. So if you're watching this at the beginning of the release, you'll have plenty of time to grab yourself a couple of patterns if you fancy. Okay. Keep an eye out for Little Fluffy Clouds. Knowing me, I'll probably make a fourth version just for in giggles. But I will try my best not to, because my word, I just don't have the time. I did get overexcited. I was talking about this jumper, and I was going to talk to you about the other two versions I've done, and then I segued into that instead, didn't I? So this jumper comes with a recipe that I have on my blog. If you want to make yourself a granny square jumper, my goodness, so much fun and so quick. The first version I did, maybe, just maybe, you'd have seen absolutely plastering Pinterest, because I see it everywhere on Pinterest. It's going crazy. It's a very easy granny square jumper. This one, for simplicity's sake, is literally just a square and then some very short little tabs, but they're the front and the back are the same. So you make yourself a big old granny square, however size you like, add yourself some tabs, and then work some nice sleeves, which do narrow in towards the cuff, even though they sort of don't look like they do. They do. And then you add some ribbing. I've written a blog post about this, sorry to repeat. And I've done a video tutorial on how you can make your own. I'm well aware that everyone is a different size. And so rather than just like put up a pattern for this one and this size I made, I have extensively gone through each step you need to make the size that fits you, including I even did maths for you. I did maths. Oh my god. Just, and also for the shoulders, you know, a bit of advice on, because not everyone's going to have the same width shoulder at all, so you know, there's advice and guidance on how you make your tabs different widths and things like that. It's quite a long blog post, but everything you need is in there, I think, and it really kind of is an encouragement to just go for it and start making without really having to follow a step-by-step pattern with everything graded for you. So if you're a fan of graded patterns, then maybe this isn't for you. But if you're a fan of just playing and winging it and seeing how it goes, it's such good fun. This is the same as the first jumper. This is also Aran weight yarn, but it's a different fibre, a different balance of flavours. I don't know what that means. So it feels weightier. It's a much heavier jumper. There, and this one's got a wool in it. It's Paintbox wool mix Aran, maybe? It was essentially a major stash buster because I had loads left over from when I did all of those like J.W. Anderson inspired cardigans. So I chucked it all in this and then wrote this massive blog post and put together a massive video tutorial. But it's proven to be pretty popular actually. I'm really pleased. One of my favourites is this version though. It's a black and blue, so it is. And as you can see, the back and the front are different because we've got a lower neckline at the front, which I much prefer. And I did this just by varying the length of the shoulder tabs. But in order to do so, then you need to do a little bit of manipulation of the other bits, like so. This is not a perfect square here. I've added rows at the side and made a few little adjustments, which I wrote about in another blog post. So all told, each version of that jumper, the granny square jumper, has its own blog post, and they kind of get a bit more complicated each time. And that just means that you kind of get a bespoke jumper at the end of it. If you don't have like mega confidence crocheting garments, then the first one, brilliant. If you fancy just making a few extra changes to make it even better, in my opinion, you might just love that one. Then the second blog post with this one is great. And then the third one goes a little bit more experimental in terms of hook sizes and where I place additional stripes on the main square itself. What I don't want to do is spend too long talking about it, because the more you say stuff, the more confusing it gets. So just like try and keep it simple. But this one, I think it's a favourite because, well, it's got mohair in it, and I love the mohair. I held a double knit merino with a mohair and kind of came up with a very similar gauge swatch for the that it matched the other just plain old Aran weight. So I was confident that everything would sort of fall into place as I made it. Okay, for my next finished object, I don't have the sample because the guys at John Arbon Textiles have the sample. I made 2 and they have them both. And maybe if you went to somewhere like a yarn show like Yarndale a couple of months ago, you would have seen the samples on show. But I made 2 shawls. It's called the Barton Hap. A hap shawl, generally speaking, is a traditional Scottish shawl, and it's square. And ordinarily, from like looking at all the different hap shawls you can get, and historically, they'll have quite a plain centre, and then decorative. Sometimes, is it called shale in knitting? The wibbly wobbly ripple border. Can't remember. But this is, I think, what it was that you would have posh wool made, and then you'd get the working women using that posh wool to make things for posh people. But there would be scraps and leftovers, and the leftovers would be put into these hap shawls that working women would wear. Like if you're outside, it's blimming cold in Scotland, and you need something to wrap yourself up in. I'm probably getting this all skewy and slightly wrong, but you would then wrap yourself up and tie these hap shawls around your body to keep you warm as you went about doing your work. I probably should have read up on that before I hit record. Anyway, so this is a crochet version. Traditionally they would be knitted. Interestingly, yeah, when I was watching 101, episode 101 earlier, I was talking about a shawl with a ripple edge. It had a linen stitch centre, and this is what it became. This is lace weight yarn, linen stitch, ripple, belay crochet with some wibbly wobbly edging again. My goodness, they were labours of love. But honestly, I'm so ridiculously pleased with the result. They are like, where did they come from? They came from my brain. I'm very proud of my little brain sometimes. They're both beautifully huge and cozy cuddles of the shawls that just, and I'm tempted to make another one, and also a cousin in some way. Like, I'll use them as my guide to create something that's the same but different. Maybe next year. But this is Appledore lace weight I used for one sample, the big square hap, and then for the other one I used Exmoor sock, which is a 4-ply. They're both big shawls as it is, so if you're going to make this shawl, then don't make it in double knit, because it will be basically big enough to be a blanket for your double bed, which I would be tempted to do, actually, to be fair. But again, there are rights associated with this, so I'm allowed to release this independently after 1 year. But for now, it remains in their annual 3, which has another crochet pattern in it by Faye from the Crochet Circle podcast. And then it's got hats and blankets and shawls, and puzzles and things. That's the other crochet design that's in here. And then, oh, there's a chart for some knitted things. Yeah. Where are we? Oh gosh, I've been talking an awfully long time. Okay, I've got 2 more finished objects and a giveaway to do. Then I need to take a break because I'm hungry. And then the second one will come out a few days after this one. Second video, sorry. Okay, let's talk bags. Bags. Here we have Wildcard. This is a mesh bag, slouchy bag, made all in one piece, and quite honestly, I use this all the time. You make a square and then you gather it all up with some magical stitches, and voila, you have a shopping bag basically. And this one I finished, I don't know, but I took this on holiday to the Isle of Wight in July, and it's now November, and I use it every week. So it's not looking its best, I grant you, but when it's full of lovely shopping, I feel, I'm like, look at my crochet shopping bag, everyone. And I really like it. It's very similar to my granny market bag. Do you remember I did a granny stripe, ow, cramp again, ow. I did a granny stripe market bag that's exactly the same format, same shaping and whatnot. I just love it. This one's called Wildcard, only because I was thinking, oh, that looks like tennis net. And look, there's some little bobbles that they could be tennis balls. Oh my god, it's like tennis. And so I threw around a few tennis kind of associated words and names, and Wildcard was the one I came up with. Which basically, if you're a non-seeded player and you get into a Grand Slam, you're a wild card. I think that's where it comes from. So yeah, that hence the name. I think somebody might have even made like the bubbles with neon, and then that's like white, so it looks almost even more tennisy. Fabulous. So current favourite shopping bag. But also another bag that I do use. I have been using it to store yarn in, and I've taken the yarn out. It's been a project bag for a bit, but I didn't finish this all that long ago, really. This is a zigzag crochet tote. And it's a free pattern on my blog. And I put together a video tutorial, which maybe you've seen. And it's really nice. I really like it. I wouldn't necessarily take this one out quite so readily as the market bag, but I use it in and around the house as a project bag mostly. Not that there's not for any reason other than if I were to take this shopping, I wouldn't get very much in it because it's more of a handbaggy type tote, isn't it? And I don't have a handbag. I have a rucksack for my purse and my bits and my bobs. So I'm not a handbag person. But it's lined and it has a magnetic clasp. Boop. Yeah. And the tutorial shows you how to do this. Read the blog post as well, because when I show you how to attach certain things like the lining in the tutorial, I feel like I made a real pig's ear of it, to be honest. Like, I treated it's double lined, and what I should have done is just faced each bit of lining as its own separate entity. Instead, I sort of almost like insisted to myself that they had to be the same, they had to be together. They don't. You can like tackle one and then tackle the other. You don't have to tackle both at the same time like Muggins did. So yeah, there's that. And whilst I have a shed load of other finished objects since the last time we spoke, I'm not going to talk about every single one. I think that's plenty. But as you can see, like, I have done loads of garments, more than probably ever before. I'm really getting into it. I like designing clothes to wear. And I'm learning loads about grading and pattern writing. It's been a real learning curve. However, I think I've got a long way to go. I still don't feel completely confident at it. I know lots of people, you know, if you get more experience, then it kind of becomes second nature. But at the moment, I have to think about every single step still. And so that's probably why so far they're all drop sleeve as well, because drop sleeve are easiest. but I would like to do some round yoke sweaters next, and then raglan as well. I like a raglan style thing. Not ready for setting sleeves yet, they're a bit more complicated. But one day I hope to have played and messed around with all of those different styles. So yeah, and finally, for you crochet geeks, okay, so I have this book, which is the Granny Stitch Crochet, Modern Granny Stitch Crochet Book by Claudine of Iron Lamb. And I want to do a giveaway with this. I mean, you could just say in the comments, I'm not going to do anything silly. Like, I always struggle to think of like a fun thing to do in order to enter a giveaway. But all you need to do is sort of leave a comment, say, I mean, you can leave any comment, first of all. Let me know how you're doing and what you're making and things like that, because you know I love to hear about that. But also, whether or not you wish to enter the giveaway. And then I'll just like put names in a hat and pluck somebody out. And then I shall send it. But it's the publisher didn't send me a copy to do a giveaway. They didn't. I just happened to have to, because I wanted this book. I was just like, totally love Granny Stitch. I'm going to buy that book. And plus, Claudine is brilliant and I love what she does. And so I bought a copy. And when it arrived, in the same post was another copy from the publishers, which David and Charles Publishers. They do a load of different craft books. They've done the Nomad, they were the publishers behind Nomad Stitches and Red Sparrow. I've got her crochet, Esme's crochet books as well. You know, the latest, the blanket book that she did. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's up on my bookshelf and I've used it. I made my sister a baby blanket not that long ago. Check my Instagram to see the baby blanket, because I don't have it because my sister's got it. Because she's like whoop at the moment. So I got 2 copies. The publisher, I didn't realise they were going to send me one to do like a review or a giveaway. I mean, I guess you could say that, okay, they didn't, I don't know. Basically, I didn't know that they were going to send me a copy, so I bought a copy. So I have 2 copies. So I'm gonna do a giveaway regardless of whether or not that was the intention or not. I don't know. But if you like Granny and you like clothes, so leave a comment to say whether or not you would like to be entered into the giveaway to win it. Does that make sense? If in doubt, just leave a comment. I haven't made anything from it yet. I don't know if I will yet, or if I might make myself. Oh no, I did. What am I talking about? Liar. I made this hat. Duh. Blacker Yarn sent me some of their birthday yarn. They send me a little bundle of cute minis every year for their birthday yarn that they do, and I made a hat. The hat's up there actually. I haven't worn it yet. I know this is really shameful, and I know that I have my own hat designs as well, but every time I've worn a hat so far this season, it's been one that I bought from a shop. I'm really sorry. It's just a really nice hat, but I will wear mine as well. They're just so colourful and lovely and pretty that they don't go with any of my boring dull clothes. So I just wear the dull hat that I really like. And that, I think, we can draw a close to the first part of the chat, because I'm pretty sure if I've run out of steam, you'll have run out of steam. And also, I dare say this is already really long just talking about my FOs. So it'll be whips next in another episode, which will be recorded in about an hour, but you'll watch it another day. So take homes. Hello, I missed you. I hope you're well. Don't forget the giveaway. Don't forget the November sale. Don't forget to come back. and watch the other episode. What else? I'm okay. I'm doing well. Everything's great. I keep doing this because I feel self-conscious. I think because I'm all like I'm pretty good at the moment. I'm happy, and I think I put some weight on. But that's, don't we all? So I'm sure it's water retention. Anyway. Oh yeah, and let me know your thoughts on the clothes. Some sort of clothes cal, cardigan cal, or garment cal. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because even though my podcasts might be few and far between, I think I want to also build up like a resource catalogue. So it will be things like that, the recent tutorial, and tutorials are always good, good to do, helpful and whatnot. And then things like the ribbing video I did about all the different kinds of crochet ribbing. So the next one might well be about different ways to start your crochet. I'm looking over there because I've started some swatch samples. And also join as you go ribbing as well, I promised that one. And just this morning, I think I might have just added to the list a blog post and maybe video about yarn substitution, and then one about blocking. Oh God, I don't want to. It's just, blocking is just one of those things that it's really hard to tell you about, but if you do it often enough, it becomes really instinctive and you just get it. So how I write that is going to be really difficult, but I'm sure I'll find a way. Anyway, thank you very much for sticking with me. Yeah, speak soon. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and although I think Facebook sucks, I might have to start using it more often. Do you use Facebook? Right, cheerio. Thank you very much. Cheerio, cheerio, cheerio. Bye-bye.